I want to tell you about the moment everything changed for me. It happened on a rainy Tuesday afternoon in New York, and I was sitting at my kitchen table, staring at an overdue bill I couldn't pay. My hands were shaking, my heart was racing, and in that moment of absolute desperation, something inside me whispered a single sentence that seemed to defy all logic and reason. I spoke it out loud right there in my empty kitchen, and within 3 days, money I didn't expect arrived from a source I never anticipated. Not once, but 3 separate times. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, this sounds impossible. You're thinking there must be some trick, some catch, some special circumstance that made it work for me, but won't work for you. But here's what I've learned after years of studying the invisible laws that govern our lives. Money is not what you think it is. It's not paper. It's not numbers in a bank account. Money is something far more mysterious, far more responsive, and far more intelligent than we've been taught to believe. And when you speak to it correctly, when you align yourself with the spiritual law that governs all supply, it must respond, not because you're lucky, not because you're special, but because you've activated a law as reliable as gravity. I'm Florence Scovel Shinn, and I've spent my life discovering the hidden patterns that connect our words to our circumstances, our thoughts to our bank accounts, and our beliefs to our reality. What I'm about to share with you isn't theory, it's not philosophy. It's a specific sentence, a specific understanding, and a specific way of being that has transformed thousands of lives, including my own. But before I give you this sentence, you need to understand why it works, because if I just hand it to you without context, you'll speak it like a parrot and wonder why nothing changes. The power isn't just in the words themselves. The power is in understanding the invisible world that responds to those words. So, let me take you back to where I learned this. Let me show you exactly what happened when I first discovered that the universe operates on laws we can't see but absolutely can use. I was sitting in my small apartment in New York City, staring at an unpaid bill I couldn't cover. The number seemed to mock me from the page. I had been taught, like most of us, that money comes from hard work, from hustling, from grinding yourself down to the bone. But here I was, working myself raw, and the numbers weren't adding up. That's when something shifted inside me. I stopped looking at the bill and started looking at my thoughts. For days, maybe weeks, I had been saying things like, I can't afford this. I never have enough. Money slips through my fingers. I was speaking my reality into existence, and I didn't even know it. I decided to try something radical. I began speaking as if the money had already arrived, not begging, not pleading with the universe, but declaring, my supply is endless, money flows to me effortlessly, I am a magnet for abundance. I felt foolish at first. The words felt hollow in my mouth, like lies I was telling myself, but I kept going. Every morning, every night, sometimes a dozen times a day, and then something extraordinary happened. Within a week, an old client contacted me out of nowhere with a project I had long forgotten, the payment. Almost exactly what I needed. Coincidence. That's what I thought, too, until it happened again and again. I started testing this principle everywhere. A woman came to me desperate to reconcile with her estranged daughter. For years, she had been saying, she'll never forgive me, I've ruined everything. I asked her to change just one thing, her words. Every day she would say, my daughter and I are in perfect harmony. Love flows between us freely. 6 weeks later, on her birthday, her daughter called. They hadn't spoken in 3 years, the daughter said. I don't know why, but I suddenly felt I needed to call you. This is how the law works. When you change the mental picture, the outer condition must change to reflect it. The woman didn't beg, didn't chase, didn't send desperate letters. She simply held the vision and spoke the word of truth until her subconscious mind accepted it as reality. Now you might be thinking, but Florence, what if I've been affirming for months and nothing has changed? I'll tell you exactly what's happening. You're affirming with your lips while denying with your heart. You say, I am prosperous, but the moment you hang up the phone, you think, who am I kidding? I can't even pay my rent. That's not faith. That's wishful thinking dressed up in spiritual clothing. Real faith feels like certainty. It's not hoping something will happen. It's knowing it already has in the invisible realm, and now you're simply waiting for it to take form. I knew a man who wanted to sell his house. The market was terrible. Houses on his street had been sitting unsold for over a year. But this man understood the law. He blessed his house every day. He said, Infinite intelligence, you know the right buyer for this home. I now release it to its perfect owner, and I receive its equivalent or better. He didn't worry. He didn't drop the price out of fear. He simply held steady. Within 3 weeks, a couple knocked on his door. They hadn't seen any listing. They were just driving by and felt strongly drawn to the house. They paid his full asking price. You see, when you hold the vision without fear or doubt, the universe moves mountains to bring it to pass. But the moment you waver, you break the circuit. It's like turning a light switch on and off rapidly. No power can flow through. Your word is your wand. But you must speak it with authority, not as a beggar pleading with a cruel universe, but as a child of the divine claiming your rightful inheritance. This is why doubt is so insidious. It doesn't announce itself with trumpets and fanfare. It creeps in through the back door of your mind, disguised as practicality, as common sense, as being realistic. You tell yourself you're just being cautious, just planning for contingencies, but what you're really doing is building an altar to limitation and bowing before it 3 times a day. I knew a woman who affirmed abundance every morning with such conviction that the walls seemed to vibrate with her certainty. Yet every afternoon she would check her bank account 17 times, each glance a silent prayer to poverty. She wondered why her demonstrations were so slow in coming. She didn't realize that her checking account had become her God, and she was tithing her faith to fear every single day. You cannot serve 2 masters. You cannot hold the vision of your good with one hand while clutching your doubt with the other. The universe doesn't respond to your words alone. It responds to the consciousness behind those words. It reads your energy like a book, and right now, many of you are writing novels of contradiction. Here's what most people don't understand about faith. It's not a feeling. You don't have to feel faithful to be faithful. Faith is a decision, a choice you make moment by moment to stand on your word, regardless of what your physical senses are screaming at you. It's looking at an empty bank account and saying, I am abundantly supplied. It's facing a diagnosis and declaring, divine life flows through every cell of my body. It's standing in the wreckage of a broken relationship and knowing my perfect right relationship now manifests. Does this sound like denial? Good, because it is. It's a divine denial of the power of appearances. You're not pretending the circumstance doesn't exist. You're refusing to give it authority over your future. There's a vast difference between ignoring reality and choosing which reality you're going to feed. Every thought is a seed. Every word is water. What are you growing in the garden of your consciousness? Because I promise you, whatever you're cultivating in secret will manifest in the open. You cannot think poverty and reap abundance. You cannot speak lack and harvest plenty. The law is impersonal and exact. It doesn't care about your excuses or your tragic backstory. It simply reflects back to you the sum total of your mental equivalents. Now, Here's where most people get tripped up. They try to play both sides. They affirm abundance in the morning and complain about their bills in the afternoon. They declare prosperity on Sunday and gossip about how hard everything is on Monday. And then they wonder why nothing changes. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot hold the consciousness of wealth while speaking the language of poverty. Your subconscious mind doesn't have a sense of humor. It doesn't know when you're just venting or being realistic. It takes every word, every thought, every feeling as an instruction and sets about making it real in your external world. I've watched people sabotage the most magnificent demonstrations simply because they couldn't keep their mouths shut. The money would be on its way. The opportunity would be forming, and they'd start telling everyone about their problems, their worries, their doubts, and just like that, they'd slam the door shut on their own good. This is why the mystics speak of guarding your words as you would guard precious jewels, because that's exactly what they are. Your words are the currency of creation. They're setting into motion forces you cannot see, but that are nonetheless absolutely real. Think about it this way. If you planted a garden, would you go out every day and dig up the seeds to see if they were growing? Would you stand over them and say, "This is taking too long, this isn't working, I don't see anything happening"? Of course not. You'd know that such behavior would destroy the very thing you're trying to create. Yet, this is precisely what people do with their spoken word. They plant seeds of desire with their affirmations, and then immediately dig them up with their contradictory statements. They water their dreams with faith one moment and poison them with fear the next. The universe is not confused by this behavior, but it is absolutely obedient to it. It gives you exactly what you're predominantly focused upon, what you're emotionally invested in, what you speak about most consistently. So, if you want to change your life, you must change your speech. Not occasionally, not when you remember, not when you're in a good mood, constantly, vigilantly, with the understanding that every word is either building your fortune or dismantling it. Because here's what they don't tell you in the self-help books that line the shelves of every bookstore. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a joke and a decree. It doesn't have a sense of humor. When you laugh and say, "I'm so broke, I can't even pay attention," your subconscious doesn't hear the cleverness. It hears a command and it goes to work immediately, making that your reality. I've watched this pattern destroy more financial futures than bad investments ever could. Intelligent people, educated people, people who read every book on wealth creation, who attend every seminar, who have vision boards plastered across their bedroom walls, and yet they sabotage themselves 3 times before breakfast with their casual remarks. "I can never afford that. Money doesn't grow on trees. I'm just not good with numbers." Each statement a brick in the prison, they're building around their own abundance. Now listen carefully, because this is where the shift happens. The moment you begin to treat your words about money as sacred, as powerful, as literally creative, everything changes. Not someday, not gradually, immediately. I'm going to share something with you that transformed my own relationship with abundance, and I've seen it work for countless others. Start speaking about money the way you would speak about a beloved friend who is generous, reliable, and always showing up for you. Because that's exactly what money wants to be in your life. Instead of "I can't afford it," try this. "I'm choosing to direct my resources elsewhere right now." Do you feel the difference? One statement closes doors. The other acknowledges your power to choose, to redirect, to manage what's already flowing. Instead of "I'm so broke," say "I'm in a temporary transitional period with my finances." Your subconscious hears possibility, not permanence. Instead of "money is hard to come by," declare Money flows to me from expected and unexpected sources. You're literally reprogramming the computer of your mind. This isn't positive thinking for the sake of feeling good. This is spiritual warfare for your financial destiny. Every word you speak is casting a vote for the reality you will experience. Are you voting for scarcity or abundance? For struggle or flow? For lack or plenty? Your vote isn't cast with words. It's cast with consciousness, with conviction, with the persistent silent stance you take inside your own mind. Every morning you wake up, you cast a vote. What will you assume about this day? That it's working for you or against you, that divine order is arranging things in your favor, or that chaos is conspiring to defeat you. I've watched people vote themselves into poverty while sitting on gold mines. I've seen them vote themselves into loneliness while surrounded by love, not because the gold wasn't there, not because the love wasn't available, but because their inner ballot said no to what life was offering them. Here's what most people don't realize. The universe doesn't respond to your preferences. It responds to your verdicts, to the judgments you've already made about what's possible for you. When someone tells me, I want abundance, but it never comes, I know immediately they're not really voting for abundance. They're voting for wanting, and wanting is just a polite word for lacking. You can't vote for abundance while your consciousness is marinated in lack. The spiritual law is exact, absolute, unwavering. You don't get what you want. You get what you are convinced of, what you've accepted as true at the deepest level of your being. This is why I say that your word is your wand, not your wish, not your hope, not your desperate plea in the midnight hour. Your word, that firm, unshakable inner knowing that speaks with authority, not anxiety. Think about it. When you speak about your life, what verdict are you pronouncing? Are you saying things never work out for me? Congratulations, you've just cast your vote. Or are you declaring infinite intelligence is solving this perfectly right now? That's a very different ballot. I knew a woman who voted against herself every single day for years. I'm too old, I'm too tired, I've missed my chance. She said it so often it became her campaign slogan. And the universe being the perfect tabulator, it is kept confirming her vote, kept giving her evidence that she was right until one day someone asked her a simple question. What if you're wrong? That question cracked something open. What if she was wrong? What if being too old was just an opinion, not a fact? What if tired was just a habit, not a sentence? She started small, not with declarations or vision boards. With curiosity, she asked herself one question. What if I didn't need permission? What if my body wasn't broken, just neglected? What if my age was actually an advantage? She started moving. Not training, moving, a walk around the block, then 2 blocks, then a gentle stretch in her living room that made her muscles remember something they'd forgotten. And with each small action, something shifted, not in her circumstances, in her consciousness. Because here's what nobody tells you about transformation. It doesn't start with your body, your bank account, or your relationships. It starts with your willingness to question the story you've been telling yourself. Every story, every excuse, every I can't because you see, your subconscious mind is the most loyal servant and the most dangerous master. It will obey whatever you consistently feed it. If you feed it limitations, it will manufacture evidence of those limitations. If you feed it impossibility, it will orchestrate circumstances that prove impossibility. But if you feed it new images, new assumptions, new declarations, it absolutely must find ways to make those real. Within 6 months, everything changed for her, not because she got lucky, not because circumstances shifted, because she shifted. She joined a dance class. She started a small consulting business. She reconnected with old friends and made new ones. Her health improved, her energy returned, her whole face looked different, not because of creams or procedures, but because joy had returned to her eyes. People said, "You're so lucky you finally caught a break." No, she didn't catch a break, she became a break. She interrupted her own pattern of limitation and declared a new reality, and the universe, as it always does, reorganized itself to match her inner conviction. This is not magical thinking, this is metaphysical law. You cannot hold one image in your mind and manifest another in your world. Your outer world is simply a reflection, a mirror of your inner assumptions. Change the assumption and the reflection must change. It has no choice, so I ask you now, what story are you telling yourself? What limitation have you accepted as fact when it's merely an opinion? What dream have you buried under the weight of practical thinking? Because here's what I know to be true. The moment you begin to question your limitations, they begin to lose their power over you. I worked with a woman who came to me convinced she was too old to start over. 53 years old, recently divorced, starting from scratch financially. My best years are behind me, she told me with such conviction. I missed my chance. I asked her a simple question. Who decided that? She looked at me confused. Well, everyone knows. Everyone? I pressed. Or just the voices you've been listening to. Within 6 months, she had launched a consulting business using skills she developed over 30 years. Within a year, she was earning more than she ever had in her previous career. What changed? Not her age, not her circumstances, her story, the narrative she was willing to accept about what was possible. You see, we live in a world that loves to hand out limitations like party favors. You're too young, too old, too inexperienced, too qualified, too much, not enough. And most people accept these labels without question, building entire lives around restrictions that were never theirs to begin with. But consciousness doesn't recognize these boundaries. The creative force that responds to your thoughts doesn't check your age, your bank account, your education level, or your past failures. It simply says, yes, what you are convinced of, I will help you create. This is both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because it means we can no longer blame our limitations. Liberating because it means those limitations were never real to begin with. I once watched a child try to lift a chair that was too heavy for him. He struggled, strained, gave up. Then his father told him, "You're strong enough. I know you are." The boy's face changed. He approached that same chair with completely different energy and lifted it easily. Same chair, same child, different belief. We are all that child, and we are also the father speaking to ourselves about what we're capable of. I wonder what shifts in your life when you begin speaking to yourself the way you'd speak to someone you're mentoring toward greatness. Not with harshness, not with that tired voice that says, you should have known better, should have done more, should have been further along by now, but with the kind of gentle authority that says, you're learning, you're growing, you're exactly where you need to be to become who you're meant to be. There's a phrase I return to often. I am a perfect idea in divine mind, not perfect in execution, not flawless in action, but perfect in essence, in potential, in the seed of what I'm becoming. And this matters because we waste so much energy trying to fix ourselves, trying to overcome ourselves, trying to wrestle ourselves into some shape we think we should be when the real work is remembering what we already are. I knew a woman who spent years believing she was broken. She'd been through trauma, made mistakes, hurt people she loved, and she carried it all like evidence of her unworthiness. She came to me asking how to become whole again, and I had to tell her the truth she didn't want to hear. You were never broken. You've been whole this entire time. You just couldn't see it through all the stories you've been telling yourself. That's the shift, not fixing, remembering, not becoming, uncovering. Because beneath every fear, every doubt, every limiting belief, there's a truth that's been waiting. The truth of who you actually are when you strip away everything you've been taught to believe about yourself. And here's what I know about that truth. It's not small, it's not timid, it's not apologetic, it's vast. It's bold, it's radiant with possibility. The universe doesn't do limited editions when it comes to potential. It doesn't create some people with access to abundance and others without. It doesn't hand out worthiness based on merit or history or how well you've performed. It gives everyone the same raw material, infinite possibility expressed through the unique filter of your life. Your job isn't to earn it. Your job is to claim it, to stand in the middle of your doubt and say, I am ready, I am willing, I am open to receiving everything that's already mine, and then to live as if it's true because it is. That's the secret they don't tell you. They tell you to work harder, to strive more, to push until you break. But nature doesn't work that way. The acorn doesn't strain to become the oak tree. It simply receives the sun, the rain, the nutrients in the soil. And in that receiving it transforms. You are transforming right now, not because you're forcing it, but because you're finally allowing it. There's a story I love about a woman who needed money desperately. She had tried everything, affirmations, visualizations, prayers, said through gritted teeth. Nothing worked, and one day, exhausted, she simply surrendered. She said, Fine, I don't know how this works anymore, but if there's abundance meant for me, I'm ready to receive it. That afternoon, an old friend called out of nowhere, not to offer money, but to offer a job opportunity she hadn't even thought to ask for. The money came, but not through the door she'd been desperately pounding on. It came through a window she didn't even know existed. That's how it works when you shift from demanding to receiving. Life stops being an adversary you must conquer and becomes a partner you can dance with. So, here's what I want you to do. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready right now. Place your hand on your heart. Feel it beating. That rhythm is the same rhythm that spins galaxies and moves oceans. You are not separate from this intelligence. You are an expression of it. And say this with me, not as a wish, but as a statement of fact. I am ready to receive. I release all struggle. I trust the process of my life. Everything I need is already on its way to me. Feel those words land in your body, not in your head where doubt lives, but in your bones where truth resides. Because you didn't come this far to stay stuck. You didn't survive everything. You've survived just to live small. The universe has been preparing something magnificent for you, and the only thing standing between you and that reality is your willingness to stop blocking it. So open your hands, open your heart, and let it in. Your life is about to change, not because you're going to do anything differently tomorrow, but because today, in this moment, you decided to receive what's already yours. And that, my love, changes